to bring some top people from the real estate industry, that usually people that we've had on podcast episodes that have had a great influence on our audience, or frankly just on me and Kiro. Kiro wasn't able to make it today, but he sends his regards. But yeah, we had a great experience working with you on the podcast, so we wanted to bring you back to sort of do a little bit more of an interactive webinar. And we've titled this one today, how strategies to crush the second half of the year. I was just telling David, obviously he comes from the Tom Ferry world. Myself and my team are just coming off of a Mike Ferry retreat. And that was really the main focus there. Let's forget what you've done at the beginning of this year, whether those numbers are impressive or not so impressive. All that is behind you. And what are you going to do to improve your numbers for the second half of the year? So we're super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll let you take the reins.
Sweet, man. Well, no, I appreciate it too. So I had fun on the podcast. It'll be fun being back here today. And look, we do need to take a little bit of a look back, because I think what's really important right now as a coach, as a practitioner, I'm leading a team, is I'm really encouraging to I'm talking to the people I coach and the agents on my team. Where have our most profitable transactions come from? Like, what are the deals that we know we can scale and acquire? What are maybe some of the transactions that are prevalent in our marketplace? What are those lead sources that have been working for us? And on a scale of 1 to 10, do we feel like there's the ability to get more? I think that's really important going into the second half of the year. And I'll use lead source on my team as an example. As the economics of the market have changed, right? Like cost per lead, we were a big Zillow spender, not Zillow Flex, Zillow Premier Agent. We made money with it in 2020. Yeah, we made money on it in 2021. 2022, we broke even. 2023, even though we've sold a lot of houses, every time we sell a house, we've lost money. And our conversion is 10+%, not our numbers, our reps number, because the economics have changed. The transaction cycle has extended. So while we have a bunch of GCI from that lead source, a couple 100,000, there's zero profit in it.
Wow.
As a team leader, I have to look at that and go, well, it's costing me profit on those transactions. It's also costing me focus on other profitable deals. Sure. So where are the transactions we're getting the most money from? Open houses, past client SOI referrals, pulling old opportunities out of our database. If I can shift the daily focus into a more profitable transaction, I think at the end of the day, we'd all give up GCI for higher profitability.
Sure.
So
sure.
I think that's a really important thing to look back at, is where are you? What are your most profitable transactions? Really knowing your numbers and looking at what you can scale. Most
now,
people.
Are you saying we should look back at that like from a team leader perspective, or that's something that individual agents can look at too?
Individual agents should look at it as well. I think we could all look at it from a team leader perspective. We have to look at it. For individual agent, we have to look at it. If we're a mega team or if we're a SEAL team, what are our most profitable transactions? I have an agent that every time she does an open house, she picks up a client. Super profitable for her. We give her a better split on those. She just doesn't do very many open houses. And you go, well, why? Could be that she's chasing these other lead sources, right?
Right.
So looking back to know where we should put our focus. And when you just think about scaling, right? Like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, are there more opportunities here? Most people give up on a lead source before they get to mastery. So I think that's a really important thing to look at, going into the second half of the year, even planning for 2024. What are our most profitable transactions and what is a lead source that can scale? Profitability is going to become really important if all this buyer's agency stuff that's being talked about right now really starts popping off.
Right. And I think it's also, I'll add the word duplicatable to that process. When you're looking back, what areas or what sources can you duplicate, right? Did you happen to pick off 3 or 4 deals from your sphere? And obviously that would tell you to focus a little bit more on your sphere, right? Because those leads are going to cost you nothing.
And
like you
and
said,
let's be real, most people work their sphere by accident.
Right.
They're not proactively working that database like you might proactively work an expired bucket, or you might proactively work a Zillow bucket, right? A lot of people are passively taking opportunities from their sphere instead of really working it. Well, what's it look like to work that lead source as a 10 so you can scale it?
Yeah. Yes. And like you said, if you look back and you say, hey, I've pulled 3 of these buyers from open houses, maybe I should be doing obviously more open houses. Or what did I do at those open house? Was it because I really marketed the open house before we held it? Did I knock on all the neighbors' doors? Did I call through the neighborhood? Did I send out postcards? What sort of, me being analytical, I would probably dig even deeper. Like, what did I do in that open house that actually got me that buyer?
Yeah. And I think that's that piece of scale that people often miss, right? Like
Yeah.
a cue I give my team a lot is like, I just want you to spend 1 more minute on that profile in the CRM to see if there's a different conversation you could have, or to gain some additional insight, or put their phone number into True People Search and see if they own a house in the community, right? Verified in the tax records. That gives us another conversation. What you're talking about with open houses, did I door knock? What questions did I ask that day? What was the price point of that property?
Right.
Am I working a good property open house, or am I working something that might be less desirable?
Yeah. I know there's sometimes where I'm chasing a lead so hard, and then I look up, weeks later, and I realize it's a $250,000 lead, and our average price point is, 700,000. And you sit there and you say, well, why am I pushing so hard for this price point? It goes back to what you said. Is what we're doing and the activities we're doing, is it profitable?
Profitable.
Or
is
my time better well spent on something else?
Yeah, I did a post on Instagram earlier this week where I'm like, we need to stop swiping our credit cards and buying GCI, and we need to start focusing on creating profitability. Like, we're in a marketplace where I think you have to really focus on creating profitability and then looking at what I can scale. Being analytical, right? You have to know the numbers of the market. 2 years ago, 6.5 million sales. This year, they're projecting, less than 4.5 million sales. Certain things don't work as well this year as they did before. When the market was frothy, it was easier to send out 1,000 postcards and get a certain response.
Right.
But if there's 2 million less sales, let's just be real that certain things don't work as well, and we have to do more of it. We have to take that analytical approach and know that in most markets, the transaction cycle is extending, right? Because consumer motivation is less, and the activities that I do don't get me quite the result it did. So I can't, some people just naturally hit their goals by accident in real estate. Like, I joke with a lot of people I coach, I could just sit you on a park bench, and if enough people walk by and you talk about real estate, you're going to make a sale.
Right.
How can I take that same theory and put it into motion where you're using your cell phone at your desk, or,
right,
creating those conversations basically. But when there's less transactions, there's less consumer motivation. When there's less consumer motivation, it's easy not to be profitable. So we have to know the numbers of the market. And if we use Portland as an example, for the last 90 days, we've had around 2,000 to 2,300 pending sales a month. But there's 4,200 homes on the market today. So people are like, oh, we have a housing shortage. I don't know. We kind of feels like we have an oversupply. Knowing we have an oversupply, yes, I want listings, but I'm going to be more particular about how I price them. Because there's an oversupply, what's going to come to the market for me? Well, there's going to be expired opportunities.
Right.
Am I set up to work expired opportunities in the second half of the year, knowing that expired listings are a really likely outcome coming to my marketplace? Half the agents in Portland are still running around talking about how the market's good because there's a multiple offer situation. But multiple offer situations are indicative of every marketplace we've ever been in.
Right.
2011, I'm selling real estate. The sky is falling. You price a house right, multiple offer situation.
Right.
So we have to know what we did, and we have to look at where the market is so we can identify the opportunities in it. So, if I were coaching you, John, every 90 days, I would have you present to me like you were the CEO of a publicly traded company. And that's talking about where we are, where we were, and what we think is going to happen. If you go listen to an earnings call from a publicly traded company, they're looking at year over year, quarter over quarter numbers. But then a big thing is the CEO saying, this is what I think is going to happen, and this is what we're going to do about it. But if I go speak at a real estate conference, there's 5,000 people, and I go, what's the average sales price of your market, and what's the market 12-month rate of appreciation? maybe 10% of people can tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So those things are super important. I can keep
And
going unless you.
I think the seller's always going to hire the agent that knows the market the best. And how do you know the market the best is you understand the numbers, right? How many homes are currently on the market? How many homes went under contract, last month? What's the average days on market, absorption, sale price to list price ratio, all those things. And, you have to have a handle on those things when you're presenting to the seller.
Yeah. And what's the trend with those, right? Like if we look in Portland, the last 7 months in a row, the average sales price of that respective month was less than the same month the year before. 7 months in a row. Like, is that a market trending up or down, right? That is a market with downward pressure on pricing that seemingly doesn't feel like it's slowing down because we're stacking inventory. The trend of inventory is that it's increasing.
Right.
So, these things are really important too. If we're talking about how do we crush the second half of the year, we have to know what's going on in the market. Exactly what John just talked about: price, absorption, days on market, trends. It's paramount.
Yeah. And the other thing too is you have to remember, like you said, the average agent is not looking at these numbers. So if you're going on a listing appointment, like many of us are, and you're competing with 2 or 3 other agents, if you know your numbers, you're going to be steps ahead of the other agent right off the bat.
Fully. And let's be real, like God bless the average agent, because that's why the commissions are what they are. If commissions were based on the exceptional, I don't think they'd be as high. Right. And you can become an exceptional agent. And these are characteristics of exceptional agents. They do know the market. They know where they've been. They know where things are going. Those agents make doctor money.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it's okay to go into an appointment too. I tell the agents on our team, I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that the other agent you met with previously, I know you met with somebody before us, just an hour ago. I'm sure they went through all the market statistics with you, right? No, I'm shocked. Well, let's spend just 5 minutes and go through some of those numbers, especially if you know that your seller's an analytical and they're going to eat those numbers up, right? Like if you know that the personality style of your seller and they're a numbers person, another reason to bring all the stats. They're gonna hit you with those numbers if you don't have them ready. So be prepared.
And even a driver, I have like a hardcore driver right now, client. We had a listing contract. Like I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, hey, if I could solve your problem while we're on the phone, which is you're not getting showings, your presentation shitty. If I can show you that I know how to get those things, will you sign a contract with me? She said yes. $1 million listing contract. Our market average sales price is like 600K. So this is an expensive home. Listing contract signed 24 hours before I went to the house to see it. Right. It wasn't about setting the appointment. Can I get this contract signed on the call? Now she's a driver, right? Like our updates so far have been like, this is how many homes have gone pending since you're on the market. Here's how many have gone pending in the last 30 days. High level numbers. She's a business owner. She looks at them. Great. Trust you. Move on. Love this update. Opinions are good, right? The opinions we develop by being real estate professionals over time, they're super valuable. Opinions combined with market data that we can show people, not tell them, put in front of them. That's how you get people to make those more difficult decisions, in my opinion. So let's talk about some strategies. But the one thing I would tell people to focus on is that in this marketplace where there's less consumer motivation, we do have to think of everything as farming, or everything is like marathon training, right? We have to plant seeds over time to reap a harvest. If you're marathon training, you're going to hit PRs along the way, right? What do you hear in farming all the time? Oh, I got to come list me. And people seem like they're surprised. No, you got to come list me because of the habit. So I'm coaching everyone to look at everything with a long-term outlook. We're going to win over time if we focus on high probability lead generation. And we'll talk about what that is. And also, like I'd call it, let's say, strategic lead nurturing, right? High probability lead generation and then strategic lead nurturing. Underappreciated marketing.
Okay.
Email marketing. I know you guys are doing a ton of email marketing. I'm sure it's brought you tons of results to the podcast.
Yep.
I actually pulled out some data that I sent to my team yesterday on email marketing.
Sure.
In the last 365 days, we've sent 709,743 emails.
How
Now
many?
that goes 709,743 individual
Wow.
emails have gone out. There have been 308,132 opens of those particular emails.
That's probably what, 45%, 40 something percent. Yeah. Almost
One
half.
bucket. Yeah, there's two buckets it comes out of. One's like a weekly email, which is like a one email for everybody type of a strategy, right? Like your database, your Zillow lead, you're an old expired, we have your email. You're going to get this email Saturday morning at 7:30. That email usually gets between a 25 and 30% open rate. And then we have emails from within our CRM that are still automated touches, pings, specific email I might write once a month. And an example would be, it's the end of the month. If I go, hey, John, tell me what you think the consumer needs to know about buying a house or selling a house in July. What would that message be? If we were going to call, what would the script be? If it was going to be an email, what would that be? Would it be embedded video inside of it? What would that look like, right?
Sure.
So this second bucket for us are those type of emails. We've sent out 172,000 of those. 103,000 have been opened. It's a 60% open rate.
Wow.
Timely, relevant messaging, right? It's timely, relevant messaging. One outcome, just sending people back to the website, driving traffic back to where we live, right? Where we can see what they're doing on our website. Those top line numbers, they gave us almost 20,000 returning visitors to our website.
Wow.
Now you come back to our website, the agent on my team, they get an email that John just came back to the website.
Yep.
John looked at this. It's annoying, right? Because they just have all these emails about the returning visitors, but it's a cue that you got to go engage that engaged person. This is a prospecting list, right? Now, I'm just going to ask you, and hopefully it's not throwing you under the bus. Like, what's your email strategy for your team? How many emails a month or a year, like big bulk type emails, do you think you guys are sending?
You're going to throw me under the bus. If I'm being transparent with you, not many at all. Like maybe we throw one out there when we have a new listing, but it's not like a week. Like, and I know Ricky Caruth pushes like a weekly newsletter. He swears by that. We're not doing a newsletter. We're not doing, what sellers might be thinking about when they list their home in July. We're not doing that sort of thing.
So here's where this
should be.
This is where this is important for everybody, right? Frequency is what creates trust in marketing. Email is incredibly cheap. Our email server that we use MailChimp, which, by the way, we can then retarget people based on engagement on social platforms, etc. We pay $160 a month for this. Right now on Zillow, going back to the beginning of the conversation, I spend like $700 on a Zillow connection.
Yeah.
I spend $160 a month to communicate with thousands of people on a monthly basis. Timely and relevant news, right? Creating trust. 7:30 every Saturday morning, you're going to get an email from us. It's time. We schedule everything.
Is it usually, can you give us an idea of what your last few have been? Is it a video of you talking every time? Is it sometimes your team members? Is it?
Yeah, sometimes it's new listings. Sometimes it's introducing people to a community. We just made like a new brand video. We'll probably do that on Saturday. The Saturday catch 'em all email isn't as targeted and specific. Mm-hmm. It's more of just like a proof of success. Here's some calls to action to communicate with us. It's mostly about driving trust and consistency. That's really what we're trying to drive with that Saturday email. We want people to know that we're available, right? We want people to know we're consistent, that we are a professional real estate company.
Right.
And if we just look at that one, that's every Saturday, and every once in a while on that same list, we'll drip in the middle of the week, timely and relevant news. What's happening with interest rates? Why would you be a buyer? Why would you be a seller? If you guys go sign up for Redfin to look at like listings you do business with,
it's true.
like this shirt's from Banana Republic. Everyone makes fun of me for shopping at Banana Republic, but I shop Banana Republic. I get 2-3 emails a day from Banana Republic. I don't unsubscribe. I only buy like a couple new shirts every once in a while, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not constantly buying clothes from there. I delete most of their emails, but that's where I shop. That's who I intend to like buy dress shirts from, right? It's easy. They have tall
Sure.
shirts. I'm 6'2", so I
Yeah.
don't unsubscribe. But if we all looked in our email boxes right now, there's businesses creating trust with us, sending us multiple emails a day. And the average realtor might send an email once a month. And if you send me an email once a month, I probably don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
So if we think about a way to nurture our leads, a way to drive bottom of the funnel opportunities, a way to capture as much value as we can out of the leads and opportunities we're paying for and servicing, email marketing is incredibly underappreciated. And it's
Right.
underappreciated because it's not sexy. It's underappreciated because like someone's got to sit down and do the work to send it out,
Yep. Put
or
it in.
take the
Yep.
leads from the CRM and put it into MailChimp.
Right.
I said this, yes, I showed these numbers to my team yesterday. And one of the agents on my team is newer. She's like, well, is that hard? And I'm like, yeah, it's hard, right?
It's a
Like
pain in the ass. Yeah.
that's why most people don't do it. What's crazy is we have closed referrals from people on our email newsletter. And they're like, oh, you were referred by this person. And I'm like, who is that person?
Yeah.
And
You
if
have
we
to
go
look
search
back
them,
and
and
figure out.
it's just an old person in the database.
Yeah. But you're staying top of mind. The thing I would add to that is, don't just do what everybody does, like the stereotypical agent, and go and purchase those Canva templates and just fill that email newsletter with it just sold every single week. I think you can, I think this is sort of what you had just said. You can put some of those recent sales in the newsletter, but make it part of it. There has to be some sort of value proposition, bring value to that newsletter in a way where it's like, where the buyer or the prospect will actually say, hey, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that interest rates had come down a little bit, or I didn't realize they had just spiked again, or I didn't realize that, I could purchase a home with just 5% down or 3.5% down, or whatever the value is. Just make sure there's some sort of value. It's the same thing if you're calling your database and calling your sphere, bring some sort of value to that phone call. And you're not just going, hey, just checking in. How are things going? And they're like, well, what are you calling me for?
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the hack for people listening. All you have to think about is what's a timely, relevant conversation to have now about the market. The number one question in real estate is how's the market? And some people do like those old tired scripts. And some people talk about their personal experience. Oh, I'm killing it, or I'm not doing very well. People are just asking how the market is. Is our home values up or down? Are homes selling fast, or are they selling slow? We could just take that same thing into this type of marketing. And what's a seller need to know specifically? Why would it be a good time to sell, or maybe not to sell? For a buyer, when would be the right time to buy or not? What are the advantages of buying a home today in Portland when interest rates are 7%? There's less people buying. There's 4,200 listings on the market, and only 2,000 are going pending each month.
Yeah.
Well, there's an advantage in negotiating when there's 2 buyers to every listing on the market.
Right.
And if you want to have a conversation, and you want to have a discussion about how we can help you through that, the opportunities it creates in negotiating, just reply to this email.
Yeah.
I think that's what people lose. And you said it, people's heads go straight to like okay, can I buy a program that does it for me?
Right.
But what's your prospect really need to know?
Right. And I think if you're struggling for content ideas, you should go to what have clients recently or prospects asked you, how's the market? Where are interest rates? Or, we're all stealing ideas from other people, right? Go on Instagram and see what other agents are talking about, and try to relate it to your current market, right? If you go on and you see someone like a Katie Day who does like a lot of educational, sort of videos, like if people aren't understanding the steps of the process, or how a home inspection takes place, or what the steps are to go through the buying process, whatever it is, you can always take ideas from other people. and
Yeah.
turn it into your own.
You know, it's funny. Like I got burnt out on making my reels, so I stopped. But at one point, I made lots of reels, and I go scroll through Instagram, and I'd see people using my same script, and they
Yeah.
just replace the numbers of their market, and it would always like got me stoked, right? Or if it was just a story and it had nothing to do with numbers, it got me excited, right? I'm like, good. I'm glad that they can use that. What's really funny, and I saw she was on one of the podcasts the other day. I coach Erica Wolf,
Yep.
and he had taken one of my scripts with Portland numbers and said it like it was the Jupiter market. And I called her and I was like, those aren't like national, those are like Portland numbers. I mean, she took Portland numbers. It was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, people are always like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? What's the buyer need to know? What's the seller need to know? If you leave it that basic, if you
Mm-hmm.
study the market and you can try to predict some things that are coming, you're not ever going to have to ask that question, what to put in there. You're always going to have a story. And that's important as a real estate professional. So let's move to another one. We were talking about it earlier, which is open houses. Open houses, I think right now are like a broken ATM machine. They are just spitting money at people that are good at doing open houses. There's two types of people that walk into open houses: crazy people and people that are in consideration, right?
I like that.
And that's just the reality, right? Like, oh, all the neighbors come through. Oh man, I'm sorry. All these homeowners are walking through this
Yeah.
listing that you could build build a relationship with, right? Oh, they have an agent. Well, did you qualify if they really had an agent? How long have they been working with that agent? How many homes have they looked at? Hey,
Sure.
John, if your dream house came to the market tomorrow, who would you call to go see it? Right? Like you got to use these opportunities to qualify real people, find out where they are in the transaction cycle. I love a nosy neighbor that comes through. Hey,
Yeah.
John, when this home sells, can I give you a call and give you the real story of what happened and tell you how the value of this home is going to impact the value of your house? Would that be a value to you?
That's great.
Oh
That's a
no,
great script.
David. I don't want to talk about the sales price of this house.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your name? What's your number? What's your email address?
I
Now you're
hate
on
to
my
use the word blessed because everybody says blessed. I'm so blessed,
yeah.
but we truly are blessed to be in a business that people actually enjoy talking about. The average consumer, right? I mean, you just sit online at Target and the person behind you saying, "Oh, where do you rent?" or like, "How much are you paying in rent?" or "My rent went up," or "My friend just bought a house." Like, it's kind of crazy to think about it, right? Like, we could all be out there selling like pharmaceutical or medical devices, right? And you're going to Target, no one's talking about that stuff, but we are truly in an industry where the average consumer, all the people around us, love talking about what we happen to sell. As like obvious and as cheesy as that sounds, like how do we take advantage of that? I mean, and the nosy neighbor comes in wanting to talk about it, and sometimes we just blow them off.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've driven around, and I'm not like a hoopy doo like super positive guy, although like I'm definitely an optimist. But I've driven around sometimes and thought about how grateful I am to be in this business. And I'm like, every house I look at, I have the potential to earn a commission selling it someday.
Right,
Like that's
right,
wild to me. Like I
right.
barely graduated from high school. I'm like hella tattooed. I was like a skateboard kid who like never went to class.
Yeah,
And I make doctor money talking to
yeah.
people about houses.
It's
It's crazy.
wild, and
Yeah.
the options are endless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
when that
so
crazy person comes in, think twice about ruling them out. I think some of those scripts you just mentioned were really, really good. Which home in the neighborhood do you own? Right.
yeah,
I've even heard some people at the right price point go to Trader Joe's and buy, 20 $10 bottles of wine. Right. What's that
totally.
cost you? $200. You give them to the 20 homes that surround that property and just say, "Hey, here's a bottle of wine. We're doing an open house tomorrow. I'm so sorry for all the extra traffic in the neighborhood." Oh, well, which house are you selling? Oh, 123 Main Street. We're having an
Yeah.
open house tomorrow from 2 to 4. Why don't you stop by?
Yeah.
Like it
Hey,
costs you $200. Like you said, we spend $700 per Zillow lead. What's 200? Like I could spend $200 by accident.
well, being analytical, right? Let's be analytical for a second. Not COVID numbers, COVID forward NAR numbers for how agents find an open or how people find their agent. But if we go pre-COVID, if we go back to like 15, 16, 17, 18, historically, buyers and sellers, and I'm just going to average it out, they find 5% of them find their agent in an open house. 5%. You know how the percentage of people that find their agent on like a Zillow lead or by asking a question about a property online, which I usually say that's a Zillow lead, RDC lead, something like that, 5%. The value or the probability of conversion is similar, but an open
Right.
house requires more effort. But I think I said this on the podcast, like everyone wants to go, this is a skills market. It's a skills market. It is. But even more than that, it's an effort market. You can't build skills without effort. Conversion takes effort. Building a brand takes effort. Dude, I hate doing open houses. I want to spend Sunday with my kids. Where will I be this
Yeah.
Sunday? At an open house. Why do I do open houses? Well, I mean, I have one pending sale right now, excuse me, for $1.6 million. Market average sales price is 600 grand.
Yeah.
Very high end buyer walks into my open house.
Yep.
They have an agent they're going to work with to sell their house an hour away. That agent was going to help them buy a home up here until they met me, until I impressed them with my market knowledge, until I asked them qualifying questions. I never said, hey, fire your agent, work with me. Like, oh, we have this
Right.
home we're selling down here. And I'm like, oh, usually those agents drive into town. People drive an hour to go service business.
Sure.
I didn't think very much of it, but I did follow up with them, got their contact information. Hey, you should check out these neighborhoods too. Next thing you know, we're looking at houses. Next thing you know, we're in contract. I mean, 2.25 of 1.6 million, that open house was like very high dollar per hour.
Absolutely.
Very, very high
And
dollar.
and that's a stage, that's a platform. We always joke because, of course, growing up in the Mike Ferry program, Mike has taught us over years, don't do the open houses because it's a waste of time and it's not predictable, it's not duplicatable. But what I would say is if you do it the right way, and Mike would say this too, probably not on the stage in front of 4,000 people,
Yeah.
but if you do it the right way, like knocking on the neighbors' doors and promoting it the right way in advance, and having those thought out conversations and bringing the market statistics, it can be a really, really productive lead source. But you're on stage to go present. I mean, you could do an open house the wrong way, just sit there and play around on your phone and say, the bedroom's upstairs, and let me know if you have any questions, and just let all those people come in and out. But the great way to do it is, of course, present yourself and present the market knowledge and the market stats while you're there.
A terrible way to convert people at an open house is just forcing them to sign in and then thinking you're going to convert them on Monday or Tuesday, which, by the way, some people still convert that way.
Mm-hmm.
But what are we trying to do always in real estate? We're trying to get to a face-to-face. At an open house, we're skipping to it.
Yeah.
You might start the relationship face-to-face. And I'm not going to talk about this today, but let's say you do brand marketing. I run a lot of YouTube ads, right? Because commercials work. They worked 30 years from now or ago. They're going to work 30 years from now. People pay millions of dollars to be on Super Bowl ads. Well, YouTube are like just localized commercials, right?
Yeah.
They work. I do open houses in areas that I do YouTube commercials, and people walk in and recognize me from the YouTube commercials. What am I talking about on the YouTube commercials? What's going on in the marketplace? What do buyers and sellers need to know? What am I talking to at an open house? Well, after I qualify you or dequalify you for that house, I'm talking to you about the market and what do you need to know? But now I get asked questions to how does this pertain to you? This is what I'd say to the average agent.
More focused questions. Yeah.
Yeah. If your sphere comes to my open house and you're passively working them, I'm going to convert your sphere.
Yeah.
It's just the reality, right? It's what I like about Zillow. If you're passively working your sphere and they go on Zillow and they get to my team, we're going to convert them. I mean, unfortunately now the cost per lead is killing us. So I guess we're going to exit that language, but
yeah. But if you come in contact with them another way,
we're going to go for them. Open houses are an underappreciated lead source because of what you said. And nothing, I mean, Mike's the GOAT, right? His son is my mentor. They aren't super predictable.
Right.
How many open houses do I need to do, though, to get 20 people to come through, 20 groups of people? If I choose the right house,
right,
I might have to do one. This is what it is for my team. Two open houses a month, 2 hours, each open house, 4 hours.
Right. That's
a requirement to be on the team. The people that do that ask the right questions, they sell 4 to 6 houses a year from open houses.
Yeah.
That's it's easy math, right? we have been able to scale it as long as they're not doing open houses from 10 to noon
Right.
or, 9 to 11. Like, yeah, let's do open houses while everyone's at church. In your
Yeah.
marketplace, if you ask the consumer, just a random consumer walking down the street, when open houses would be, they almost always say afternoon, Saturday or Sunday afternoon. If you're not doing them within that time, you're cutting down your probability.
Right. Right.
So,
And I think a lot of people are impatient. They want business that's right now. And a lot of those people that are casually looking at an open house are, more future business. Right.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the big aha for me was what do we all tell a buyer who calls us and says, hey, David, I want to purchase a home in November.
Yeah.
I
Calling
mean,
back.
personally, on our team, yeah, we would say, hey,
Yeah.
let's stay in touch. I'm going to set you up for some automatic email notifications. However, you're looking a little bit too soon. And if you want to sort of tighten up your focus, why don't you go to some open houses just to
Yeah.
get an idea of some neighborhoods? So we get them out there, but we won't want to spend our time on it because they're looking too soon. So we say, oh, drop our business card or drop our name when you go to an open house. So that was like a big aha moment for me, is like, wait a second, a lot of these people going to open houses are people that are looking, they're just looking a little too early.
Yeah.
So if you take that opportunity, and you have to sort of be patient and do it consistently, like you said before, to do it every week, you understand that, you're putting people in your pipeline that are going to do something. It just might not be for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Hey, John, what if the right house was available for you 2 months from now? What would you do? Would you still wait till November?
Well, I'd maybe have to break my lease, but I don't think it would be the end of the
If I
world.
could negotiate your broken lease fee, your break lease fee, do you
Yep.
think you'd be willing to execute on that house?
You could do that for
And
me.
I'm not trying to press you into buying a house, John. I'm just asking a question because here's what I know. You don't know when the right house is going to come available for you. So what if we just went and looked at some houses? Because by the way, what do people look at? 10 houses on average before they buy something?
Yep.
The agent that keeps the buyer in the car is the agent that makes the sale,
Right.
right? Or the agent that gets the consumer in the car is the one that makes the sale. And that's
Yep.
where if we go back to looking at everything with a long-term mindset, you're right. Agents look for the deal today and not the deal tomorrow. Sometimes if we go back to email marketing, I've had some clients send out some emails that I really don't like. I think they're like gimmicky and bad for brand. And I'm like,
Sure.
let's not exchange a lead today for 10 months from now or 2 years from now because we built our brand the right way. I would
Right.
expect everyone listening or watching this plans to be in real estate for a long time. But you guys, open houses, they are a gold mine. Like I've been saying, like I think they're a broken ATM machine. They're spitting money. Going back to the beginning, if I know what's going on in the marketplace, question I'll ask a lot at open houses, I'll go, hey, John, how do you choose an agent? And I don't let you answer. And I go, well, you shouldn't just choose your friend because that's how most people choose their agent. You should choose the most competent agent in the marketplace. Do you have like a couple minutes where you talk about the real estate market? And I just start spewing data on them.
Yeah.
Spewing doesn't mean I'm going to convert them, but at least I'm going to like sow some little seed of doubt maybe that they shouldn't hire like Aunt Margie who sells 2 houses a year.
Right. Right. And that's a good way to do it. Again, it's your opportunity to present it. Don't make it about you. Don't make it, oh, I've sold 10 homes this year. Just make it about market stats, what's going on, and how you can add value.
Yeah. And I know this works from coaching it. I've seen people's confidence increase. I'm 40. I got into real estate when I was 24. And by the time I was 25, I was sick of hearing people say I'm too young. How did I overcome the too young objection? I started learning everything about the market. The market I worked, every open house. I went to every broker tour. I toured every vacant house. I tell people like, hey, for 15 years, I've looked at the hot sheets every single day. Like I know the inventory. And that's who you want to be your advocate, right? So whether you've been doing it for 15 years like me, 15, 16 years, or you've been doing it for 16 months, knowing the market and finding a way to articulate that helps increase conversion.
100%.
So let's talk another place we can do that, right? If we're going to crush it going into next year, you said it, people want the low-hanging fruit. Because people want the low-hanging fruit, people ignore their database. Early in the webinar, people get Sphere deals by accident. They passively work them. As a coach, here's what I know. People, real estate people, realtors, we assume people know to refer us. And our consumer, they assume we're too busy. They assume the price point's too high. They assume the price point's too low. They assume it's too far away. And the way to overcome the assumption is by having direct conversations. There's no reason to beat around the bush. Hey, John, I know we're friends, but this is a business call. Hey, I don't know if you know this. Most people find their real estate agent by way of referral. You meet someone at church, someone at your work talking about buying or selling real estate, and then you go, oh my gosh, my friend Dave sells real estate. If you were ever willing to make that introduction to that type of person with me, man, it'd be super meaningful.
Yeah.
You're my friend. You're not going to be like, you know what? Fuck you, Dave.
Yeah.
There's no way I'll introduce you.
For sure. And I think you said it in a way where it was like, you said that would be meaningful. Like that's a really nice way to say it. And so you're saying it's okay to call your database?
I think it's a requirement.
Yeah. I'm teasing because it's funny when you grow up in the Mike Ferry program, they always tell you that Tom will teach the opposite thing. So we end up with this bad connotation of like, of course, Tom, we had on the podcast. I'm a huge supporter of him. Yeah. Unlike a lot of Mike Ferry people who just have this like sort of their blinders on. So yeah, definitely calling the database, whatever Ferry you follow, we're calling our database and we're saying, hey, this is a business call. We know that you're friends. Who do you know that's in your network that may need some real estate assistance or along that vein?
We have to think about what our offers are, right? So that might be like telling you, here's the reality, guys. Like 60 to 70% of sellers and 50% of buyers find their agent because of a personal connection. I could just tell you that and then say, hey, John, so if you know anyone and you'd feel comfortable connecting us in a text message, man, that'd be meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I'm going to go create advocates in the biggest TAM. If we go back to like, where's the biggest opportunity? Guys, having 100 people walking around programmed to refer you business or know that it's okay or you would appreciate it. Yeah. Hey, John, how can I help you in your business? Reciprocity always comes back around.
I find business-minded people, like people who have either they're like self-employed or they have their own business, which is self-employed. They're just business-minded people are always sort of thinking like that. I struggle with sometimes like the expressives or the people who are not necessarily, in that sort of vein, right? Yeah. Like I feel like, the guy who owns his own business will always be like, oh, you got to call John. Like he's my go-to guy. So sometimes I struggle with the other types of people, but I think what I heard a few years ago is that people only have the mental bandwidth to remember like one person in each field, right? Like if you said, hey, who's like the best dentist in your area, right? Yeah. You'd probably be like, well, I go to this guy. But if I asked you who the number 2 person was, you'd be like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just a dentist. I just go to one guy. Yeah. But realtors, like our signs are everywhere. Our Instagram's everywhere. Our stupid reels and TikToks are everywhere. Sometimes we're fighting for that bandwidth. So how do you stay in that number 1 position? And it's just, again, I think it's just bringing value. But we can't just assume that people are always going to remember us.
We can't. And I think we live in a world where everyone knows 8 to 10 realtors.
Yeah.
So how do you be the one of choice? You have to do the emails. You have to do the reels. You don't got to do the stupid ass TikTok dance. I still believe no one gives a shit which hamburgers I like to eat. But if I'm the one that's educating people on the market and I'm calling and educating them and I'm letting them know that I'm available, becomes a really easy formula to win. And like, if we go prospecting versus marketing, because I also think of Tom and Mike that way, right?
Yeah.
Like in Tom Ferry, lots of people know me as a marketing guy or think I'm a marketing guy until they get to know me. And I'm much more of a sales guy because I believe the best businesses are prospecting based and marketing enhanced. Well, if I'm emailing my database and then I'm calling and prospecting inside of it, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about prospecting inside a group of people that hopefully already have some awareness of us. Mm-hmm. I can throw on the headset and dial for dollars with people that have no fucking clue who I am. Or I can go call through these people that might know who I am because they've got a whole bunch of emails from me they've never opened.
Right.
Or maybe they've seen some other marketing. But
Right.
here's the thing. Those people aren't going to pick up the phone and call me. I have to call them first.
Yeah.
It's just the reality. It's the difference
Totally.
between being passive and direct. Everyone's trying to think of these fancy ways, Tom included, love the guy, to like pull out of people to have a conversation about the real estate market. I'm like, fuck it. Let's just ask them.
Yeah.
Hey, John, would you want to know what your home value is? No. Well, if you know anyone who's thinking about buying or selling this year that would want to have a conversation with the real estate market or would benefit it, would you mind connecting me with that person?
Right.
You don't have to
No.
say yes to the offer for me to ask for the referral.
Right. And just by you having that phone call, you've planted the seed so that if things do change for them, or if they run into somebody that may need your help, you've now regained their that space in their mind.
No one's ever not gotten business because they're like, man, David's too proactive.
Yeah.
Like David calls us like 3 to 4 times a year. What a dick. Right? I would never refer him business.
And what I
right?
would tell people too is especially if you're newer, just because the people in your database are not answering, leave a voicemail. And just if they're not going to call you back most of the time because they don't need you right now.
Yeah.
But that you're banking these value propositions. Yeah. Like I've had people in my database, I've left them probably a voicemail every quarter for 4 years, 16 straight voicemails for 16 straight quarters. Never got a call back, not a text, not thanks for checking in. Then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're pregnant. We live in a 1-bedroom. We need to get out of here. And I'm like, damn, I thought these people forgot about me. But really I'm staying top of mind because I'm leaving those voicemails. I'm checking in. They just didn't need me at the moment.
Well, and here's the reality. It's not their responsibility to call you back, but it's your responsibility to call them and remind them that you're available. That is our responsibility as a real estate professional. It's not the consumer's responsibility to be like, John, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
But it's your responsibility to say, hey, David, I'm here when you're ready.
I do a lot of like renovations and flips and I'm always doing something. And, if I don't need my house painted, but a painter's always checking in with me, hey, you guys need anything, leaving voicemails, I'm not going to call the damn painter until I need something painted. But when I need something painted, I'm going to be like, oh, that guy who calls me every 3 months. Like I've got his last voicemail right here. Like it's just staying top of mind. And it's just,
realtors, we overthink the nurturing of the database because we think we have to throw a wedding to get referrals, or we think we have to go like drop shit off on the door, buy everyone pumpkins or whatever, right?
Pumpkin pie.
We know all the stuff that realtors do. And my thing for years has been like, I don't know, my dentist calls me twice a year. I don't go to a different dentist.
Right. Like, exactly.
My CPA calls and reminds me we need to have a meeting to do the taxes. I don't go do the taxes with somebody else.
Right.
We overcomplicate building relationships in this business.
Yeah.
Building relationships is not that hard. Hey, you know what? Don't call me 20 times a year. Then I will not work with you.
Right.
Call me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Add value. Don't ask desperate. Create reciprocity. It's all good. I love to read.
And I think what you said before was important, where you said, you're going through the open house script and you said to the seller next door or the neighbor, would it be okay if I called you when this house sells so I can tell you the real story or something along those lines?
Yeah.
So I think it's important sometimes while you're in the transaction, let's just say you're working with a buyer, you're under contract, you should be informing them throughout the process. But it's okay to remind them and say, hey, even when we close, I'm still going to call you every quarter because I want to be your agent, for life or however people coin that phrase. But I want to be your real estate resource. So is it okay with you, David, if I continue to call you every quarter and just update you on what's going on in the market, interest rates or whatever it may be at the time? No one's going to say, no, please don't call me again.
No,
they're giving you the okay.
No. Hey, John, here's what we know. most realtors don't call their agents after closing. One of the things that we do at Hillshire Realty Group is we just proactively keep our clients updated on what's going on in the market. If it's a good time to refinance, we want to let you know. If values are going up, we want to let you know. We just want to like stay in the flow with you. So if you have real estate questions, it's okay to call us, and we're just going to call you from time to time.
Yeah.
Who says no?
You're not going to be like, David, please remove me from the list.
Yeah,
It doesn't happen.
There are some people we might not want to say that to, because maybe the transaction didn't go the way we wanted, and that's okay, right?
But that's your choice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your choice. If you don't want to work with them again, delete them from the database.
Yeah. So look, there was going to be one other thing that I was going to talk about, but I know we got to close this out. In my marketplace, you guys, the end of 2023 and 2024, there's going to be a gold mine in expired listings and canceled listings. And some people have the attitude and aptitude to run that, right? And some people do not. But you're going to see a lot of competent listing agents take a lot of market share in Portland when these listings start expiring. That's the reality. And some of you might be in a marketplace like that. There's one thing that everything we talked about, there's a proactiveness that goes to it. I'm doing emails to create a list to call. I'm doing open houses so I can get face-to-face. I'm going to call expired listings because people's plans don't change. They usually just get delayed, right? Can I solve that problem? I'm getting in my database. I'm calling them. I'm asking them questions. I'm creating reciprocity. Nothing is passive. If you want to have a better second half of 2023 than first half, you have to be proactive, and you have to build that habit to go into 2024, because I'm not of the mindset that rates have to come down. I think we might just live in a high interest rate environment. Outside of our industry, where it's a little bit self-serving, is anyone saying mortgage interest rates are going to come down? Or is it just realtors and mortgage brokers, right? I want them to come down. I think logic would say they might or should, but what if they don't?
Right.
What if next year we have another 4.5 million sales? Most people are starting to panic only now because they're starting to run out of their 2021 and 2022 money.
Yeah.
What if we live in a lighter market in 2023 and 2024? By the way, Fannie Mae is predicting that 2024 is going to be worse than 2023. Now, predictions are bullshit, right? But I'd say as a coach, why don't you act as if? Is there any harm in acting more defensive? Is there any harm in playing more offense? As a team leader, I'm having to shift a lot of things in my model, because I was good at just making the phone ring for my agents. And, I'll tell them this, but frankly, they got a little spoiled. We're in an effort market. We got to go put in the work if we want to achieve at a high level.
Yeah. And would you say it's twice as much work as last year?
I wouldn't say we're putting in twice as much work. We're putting in more work, and it's smarter work. We're not just checking the box. Some people might have to put in twice as much, right? And maybe some of that work is getting the market knowledge.
Right.
Smarter work, higher probability, right? Really knowing where my opportunities are coming from. What I'll say is there's weeks I can make 100 phone calls and all I did was plant seeds, and that's okay. Where in 2021, if I made 100, I didn't even want to make 100 calls in a week because I knew I'd get too busy.
Right.
Different.
It's true.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to do that because I'll be slammed and I'm good, right? I should have hired 10 more people in 2021. But the reality of this market, at least in my market, you guys, pending sales are down, 40-ish%, 7 months of the average sales price being less than the month before. We're starting to stack inventory. We still only have 2 months of inventory. Still statistically a seller's market, but our market isn't reacting that way. So how do we adapt, right? We got to skip to face-to-face. We have to have smarter, better conversations. So yeah, some of my agents actually think about it, probably have to work twice as hard. Some have to just work.
What's your take on this? When a buyer calls and says, I want to see a property tomorrow evening, are you demanding a copy of a pre-approval letter before you go? Or because you're so big on the face-to-face, are you okay going out there without a pre-approval?
Yeah, I'm fine to do something for nothing once. So I'll go show you a property to build the relationship. I have a podcast on my podcast, from a couple of years ago where someone asked this question, what if they have an agent too? John, how long have you been working with your agent? How long this? How long this? How long this? Really qualifying that relationship. My mom's my realtor. Good luck like converting that person.
Yeah.
But the story I tell a lot was that this client, he goes, well, my realtor sold my house 5 years ago. And I called him, I haven't been able to get a hold of him. And I go, look, well, I know the area really well. I have some sales, up in this particular neighborhood. Here's what I ask. I'll keep the appointment with you. I'll show you the house. If you like my style of representation, when we're there, all I ask is you give me 5 minutes in the driveway to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me. Because he had an agent, he just wasn't engaged with them.
Yeah.
So real estate's a business where we do something for nothing all the time. And I'm willing to do something for nothing once. Now, some people on this call that are making less than six figures are going to be like, well, that's not worth my time. It is, because you're not making very much money.
Right.
Like
if you have a lot of white space on your calendar, you can afford to go on that appointment.
Exactly. I coach a guy named Kevin Sturdivant in Orange County. He's a gangster, at Kevion on Instagram. A lot of people know who he is. And I asked him a couple months ago, hey, Kev, do you have more time to go on appointments with your team members? This guy's super busy. He has 5 kids. He goes, I always have time for a good appointment. It was like an affirmation, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Kev's going on more appointments. GCI is increasing. Listings are up, right? Like everything good is following that activity.
And I think we heard this at the Mike Ferry event last week. I forgot who said it. You have to really figure out what your best selling style is. Like if you're really good on the phone, maybe you should be spending some more time on the phone. If you know that you're really, really good in person, then I would be going for those driveway conversations like you said, right? Or doing the open house. If you know that you can kill it, like look back at your business in 2023 so far, even go back to 2022. And where did these appointments come? Wait a second. This one was from a face-to-face appointment for a totally different town or a totally different price point. But because I had that great face-to-face conversation, you can remember these conversations. That's what converted them. I think if you realize how good you are at certain aspects, face-to-face, open house, prospecting over the phone, whatever it is, just duplicate that. And that will certainly, help you close out the end of the year. So yeah, to answer that, I think we were always really strong about getting the pre-approval first. But what we always say is, listen, if they check, 6 or 7 boxes out of 10, and they just don't have the pre-approval letter yet, go meet them.
Yeah. Look, if you've been selling real estate long enough, even if you haven't, you're going to know who the jokers are,
right?
That you don't want to do the appointment with.
Yeah.
I mean, asking someone for a pre-approval sometimes now feels like asking someone to like have sex on the first date, right? Like finances are personal, right?
Yeah.
I want to build a relationship and then I'm going to close, right? And you're a Mike Ferry guy, so I know you do not care about the salesy word. I'm a salesperson. I have to sell you on coaching with me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to sell you on working with me on my team. I have to sell you on using my services, and then I get to move to it. Right. But there's always a sale.
Always.
So,
and one word that we always try to weave into that sort of a preliminary phone call of like whether or not you go on the first showing is, do you have an agent that you're committed to? Are you currently committed? That word committed does wonders, because if you say, hey, is there an agent you're working with? Everybody's working with somebody. Yeah, I met David at an open house last weekend, or I saw 3 homes with this guy last week. We worked with him, but are you committed? And people, oh no, I'm not committed. I haven't signed anything, which essentially says to me, and again, we're not trying to poach people, but it says to me that differentiates between the people who have actually like signed an agreement with somebody and somebody who said, hey, I met this guy 3 months ago, but we're not tied to him.
And hey, if you're a real estate agent and you don't know what's going on with like the commission stuff right now, you better start getting your clients committed and signing contracts with you.
Yeah.
So
good. Well, awesome. I think this was a great outcome today. We really do appreciate you spending some time with us. And again, we were on, I believe, on Facebook Live, YouTube Live. And as soon as we're done here today, this will stream, the recorded episode will be on YouTube for the rest of our lives. So
awesome.
Excited to collaborate with you again. If anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
David C. Caldwell on Instagram is the best. And if I don't respond to you in like 24 or 36 hours, just ping me again. I try to get back to everybody. I just get busy like everybody. So
Awesome. Awesome.
all right,
Well,
thanks,
again,
man.
David, thank you so much. And definitely, guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel and definitely check out the podcast episode we did with David. That one was just as good, if not better than this episode. So always bringing value. Thank you so much.